Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage. Today we're holding our monthly tech meet and we're going to be doing a tune-up on a Silver Cloud 3. This is a Lucas dual point also. They used this into the early Shadow series. What we got here, I'm going to disconnect this wire going to the back of the distributor. You got to be careful doing that. Take off this metal vacuum line, which is loose. You always, when you pull a distributor, if you're going to do it, it's a lot easier to do it out of the car to replace the points and condenser. You need to make sure you remember the orientation of the rotor. The rotor is what sends spark to the different cylinders. The nice thing about the Rolls and Bentley, you can only put the distributor in wrong two ways. A lot of other cars, they have a gear at the bottom. This has a shaft that fits into a slot, so you can only be right or 180 out. A lot of American cars or other cars, they have a gear at the bottom, so you can be, like 14 ways out. You note that position. Make sure you do not turn the engine in any way. In other words, don't let somebody crank the engine while you have that out, because then you're going to be off, because that turns as the engine's turning. So I'm going to go on the other side, loosen the cinch bolt. Slip right out of there. I've seen them seized before. This has a little cinch bolt at the back that'll be easier to see once we get the thing out. And that cinch bolt squeezes the distributor. It's not going to be easy. That should spin easily right now. So it probably has not been out in years, or the timing adjusted in years, and it loosened up fine. And if you look at the bottom of the distributor, you'll see there's a slot. See that? If you can get in there and look, there's a shaft coming up that's flat, and it fits right into that slot. That's why you can only go one of two ways. And like I said, other cars have angled gears on the bottom, and you can get them in a whole bunch of ways. You'll see that there's a plate with a long bolt, that squeezes on the distributor to hold it in position. And it's got some floating, it floats on this. Okay, so all I had to do was loosen one of those floaters, and it loosened up fine. And if you look at the bottom of the distributor, you'll see there's a slot. See that? If you can get in there and look, there's a shaft coming up that's flat, and it fits right into that slot. That's why you can only go one of two ways. And like I said, other cars have angled gears on the bottom, and you can get them in a whole bunch of ways. And even some cars drive the oil pump for the engine off of a shaft at the bottom of that distributor. And that's fun, to try to line up that sixth thing with the six-sided one. So now we'll go over to the distributor machine, since I'm going to do it that way. It's pretty critical for setting the points on the earlier cars. The early V8s, the Cloud 2, and the six-cylinder cars going back, they had two sets of points. So what the point does, back to the original, is the coil is that big sleeve thing that the spark sealing wire comes out to the center of the spark cap. And then you've got plug wires, which they're called high tension wires because they're high voltage. They go to the spark plugs. What happens is when a point closes, it's feeding voltage to one part of the coil. There's two sets of windings in there. Two, right? Yeah. And it's loading up. It goes straight to ground, and it feeds it voltage, and it builds this energy in there. And when you open that point, that energy has to go someplace, and it comes out the high tension wires. Okay, so the point opening and closing is firing the cylinders. Now, on the six cylinders and the early V8s, they have two sets of points. And instead of this car, if you look at the distributor, these little lobes here, the cam lobes, there's 8 on this. One of these points opens and one that closes. On the earlier cars, they would have half as many lobes. So that means one set of point does half the cylinders, either 3 or 4. This is much better, much more forgiving. On the earlier distributors, if you've got one set of points that say opening at a certain point on the flywheel, and then you got the other 4 cylinders opening 5 degrees different, it's not going to run right. So they have to be synchronized, and that's what this machine does. I don't think I have one distributor in here or two. No. But we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with Silver Cloud 3 today. So we'll just raise that up, clamp that. We're going to tighten this thing on here. Now, distributors can go one of two ways, either go clockwise or counterclockwise. This model goes left, so it's counterclockwise. This is a dwell meter. This estimates the degrees of rotation that the points are open, correct? Or closed? I forget.
Dwell?
Yeah.
How long the points are closed?
Close. So that's the saturation of the coil, how long it's saturating the coil. So this, I have to calibrate it. This has a little, or a big D-cell battery, so I go to calibrate here. I'm going to set this to 0 line. That's a set line there, it says. So one of these is ground. We can go right to this, which is to the housing, which is ground on the engine. This, and then this goes to the signal wire for the coil, and we'll go to 8-cylinder. Okay, so left-hand drive. So you see that there's a little arrow on here, and that's for strobe. And you see a degree wheel here. It goes 360 degrees. So this is a clutch, and this you can see those little arrows. They're flashing there. See that? That's each cylinder supposedly firing. Now, that is pretty cool. Now, if we slow this down, well, it's got a mechanical advance. Now, an advance, what that does is, when you're at an idle, you want the car to be smooth. But when you start going, you want to get a little extra oomph. And what they do is they make the spark plugs fire sooner to make up for that extra oomph. If the piston's moving so fast, it'll fire sooner because otherwise it's going to fire too late. So there's a mechanical advance. If you want to see what that is, let's see where we go, 245. Let's just say we're looking at that one right there. If you bring up the speed, that's all the way down there. Okay, you see how it moves? Now when I go faster, that arrow is going to, you can get your total advance, mechanical advance. It'll be around 10, 12 degrees usually, right? This is going 15 already. So if the engine blew up, it never goes as fast. So we got like 17 or 16 degrees mechanical advance on there. See how the arrow's moving there? So a lot of hot rodders.
Is that the speed of the car that you'd be going with? That the RPM?
Well, RPMs are actually 2 revolutions of the engine. It's 1 RPM. No. They figured out the math, but yeah, the engine has to make 2 cycles before it goes through all the cylinders.
The cam spins 50% of the crankshaft speed.
Right. So
the RPM is the speed.
I don't know if I have. No, that RPM meter doesn't work. That's too bad. So what we're looking at here is we can look at the dwell. It's 27, which is pretty good. That's about right for this engine. So that's how long the points are staying closed for each cylinder before they open.
Now, are you reading the dwell on both sets of points?
Well,
Or is it put a piece of paper between one and check the adjustment?
you can. It's going to change everything. If I open up that gap. Now that is really critical on the split. This, if you watch it, there's a point where both points are closed. And as the cam starts to come, one opens, and the cam keeps going, and then the other one opens, and then the first one closes, but the other one is still open. I think they just extend the life of the points by spreading the load. The reason they have a condenser is because every time those points open, you're going to get sparks. When you've got this on the car and it's running, it sparks every time. The condenser helps, draw off some of that extra energy. Yeah. All right, so enough for theory. Here's the thing. If you look at the original, somebody's already changed this. Normally this will have a condenser that has, instead of a wire pigtail, it'll have a wire pigtail. You're the most important person in the room.
Right after you.
It'll have a little stud with a nut. And that's a CD3049, I think is the part number, the Rolls-Royce part number. I quit using those because at least half of them would be bad. You get it running, and it'd start running like crap. And it'd be shorting out inside and just making it fire at all the wrong times. So as you can see on this one, it's already been changed. I use a different condenser off of a later car. And I don't know what the engineering or the technical specs are or whatever, but it works. So we'll just say that we changed the points and condenser. If you don't know how to do this, and you're trying to figure it out with my video, you're gonna have to wait for the next video. We'll do it on a 2 or a cloud 1. That'll be more entertaining, because then you have to synchronize them. But this is, we've got a good lesson here. And we'll put this back in, set the timing. That's the fun part. We still need the hoist. Oh. Okay, rotor. Okay.